few months back, I made a video about the celebration of Speedway. It was received well by the Speedway community and by the WSRA in particular. The WSRA asked me if I would participate in and record another event at the National Speedway Museum during the summer. So today I'm back at Paradise Wildlife Park, where the WSRA are celebrating 50 years since West Ham Speedway Stadium closed in 1972. It's incredible, isn't it? It's been 50 years since Custom House closed its doors and was demolished, so today was all about celebrating the history of the stadium and the West Ham Hammers Speedway team. It's another fantastic event brought to fruition by the World Speedway Riders Association, preserving the history of our great sport for us all to enjoy. It was a chance for current and former riders, fans, track staff and promoters to get together and share memories, pictures, videos and memorabilia and stories of the club and the stadium. Much like the celebration of Speedway, there was a barbecue going on to keep everyone well fed and a bar to keep the masses watered on what turned out to be a beautiful day. Russell Williams set up a brand new West Ham Speedway display in the Speedway Museum to commemorate this special anniversary. Check out this replica model of Custom House, delicately and deliberately crafted down to the finest detail over a 20-year period. What an incredible piece of work, and that just goes to show how much love and care there is for West Ham Speedway and Custom House. There are even DVDs and pictures, key rings and badges for sale. It was hard not to get wrapped up in the warm retro atmosphere. Custom House closed its doors 13 years before I was born, yet I still felt welcome and invested in the day's events. I didn't feel like an outcast, I felt like I belonged. In the afternoon, the riders gave speeches to the gathering, giving their thoughts and feelings on West Ham Speedway Club. Riders like Stan Stevens, Alf Hagen, Reg Fearman and former world number 2 Dave Jessup joined us, and even the likes of Sverre Hartfeldt and Bent Jansen made the journey over from the continent to join us. We even had a former world champion join us as a special guest. It was a great chance to get pictures and autographs from the riders and create my own little piece of history. I've got a race jacket with loads of signatures hanging in my workshop. Riders dating back to long before my day when my dad got the Speedway bug. I visited Paradise Wildlife Park and the National Speedway Museum several times before, but I'd never gotten the chance to see the Memorial Garden. It's a beautiful little park with benches situated just beyond the car park area, with well-maintained planters and tributes to many Speedway riders who are no longer with us. There was a warming up of one of the old bikes, but I mean, of course there was. It would be rude not to warm up one of these bikes, wouldn't it? It warms your soul when you hear the old upright start. It's like hearing one of your favourite songs that you haven't heard in years. As soon as that bike roars, you remember the words and the beat like it was yesterday. How many laps of Speedway are in this one picture alone? If you haven't done so before, join the WSRA and go to their next event. Where else can you grab a Coke, bump into a 4-time World Speedway champion and my dad's hero, and then just grab a selfie? Why not? Unbelievable. I still can't get over it, and it does make me sad that I can't share these memories with my dad, but it is wonderful to see how many other people get to share these memories with each other. It's just magic. Custom House was designed by Scottish architect Archibald Leake, famous for his work on football stadiums such as Liverpool's Anfield, Arsenal's former home, Highbury, and even Manchester United's Old Trafford. There was a sizable two-tier stand which could hold up to 80,000 people, and a more undersized stand at the back which took 20,000, bringing the capacity up to 100,000 people. The first Speedway meeting to take place in West Ham was on 28th of July 1928. Silvertown MP Alderman Jack Jones opened the event. There were two competitions, the West Ham Invitational Handicap and the West Ham Golden Gauntlet. In 1929, the Dirt Track League was formed in the UK, and West Ham was one of the founding 22 members. The Hammers were part of the Southern League, which consisted of 11 teams once Hall Green Bulldogs withdrew. The Southern League ran adjacent to the English Dirt Track League, the Northern equivalent, which started with 17 teams but finished with 11 after various withdrawals. Even at the beginning of the sport's history, teams were withdrawing mid-season. The Hammers finished 6th in the first ever competitive Speedway League, wearing a plain white race bib, vastly different from the red and blue Hammers colours that we know today. In 1930, the Hammers found their first success, winning the Essex County Championship. Crazy, isn't it, when you think now, an Essex County Championship, a county that no longer has a single Speedway team. The Londoners would go on to finish 9th and 3rd in the following seasons before the two leagues were merged in 1932 to create the first ever National League. The Hammers would once again finish 6th in the first National League. In 1933, history was made in the East End when Custom House hosted the first ever test match between England and Australia. 85,000 people witnessed England put the Australians to the sword, 74 points to 52. In 1934, Wembley's Johnny Hoskins joined the Hammers as director and manager. West Ham entered a reserve side into the National League, 2nd Division, which they won. In the Senior League, West Ham finished in the top 4 for 3 consecutive seasons. Then, the Hammers slumped to 7th, bottom of the league. The sudden low finish didn't show success was on the horizon, but everything changed in 1937. Captained by Harold Tiger Stevenson and having the likes of Arthur Atkinson and Bluey Wilkinson in their ranks, the Hammers got the better of their local rivals Wembley to win the 7-team National League. Kiwi Bluey Wilkinson, who finished 3rd in the first ever individual world final, went on to lift the World Championship at Wembley the following year, representing the Hammers. Many believed Arthur Atkinson would have gone to win the top prize had the competition not been suspended the year after. They couldn't retain the title in 1938, finishing runners-up to New Cross. The Hammers were 4th in 1939, but the league was abandoned. War had broken out in Europe, the most prolonged and devastating conflict the world had ever seen. Suddenly, Speedway wasn't so important. Custom House stood in its place, waiting for the bikes to roar once again. Amazingly, despite its proximity to the London Docklands, which were a prime target for the Nazi Luftwaffe's bombing, the stadium was never significantly damaged. In 1946, the nation was rebuilding after 6 years of war. It was time for Speedway to return. West Ham come to tapes in the National League's return, but finished bottom of the 6-team league. Despite the low finish, the Hammers would become mainstays of the National League. London was the place to be at the time for Speedway. I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it? Wembley, Wimbledon, New Cross and Haringey all had teams alongside the Hammers. West Ham would come to tapes every year and string together 10 years of consistent mid-table finishes. The National League gradually expanded from 6 teams in 1946 to 10 by 1952. West Ham made history again when they set the world record signing fee for Australian world champion Jack Young, replacing the departing Abe Lawson, who decided not to return to the UK in 1952 season. Jack was the reigning world champion despite riding for a second division side, Edinburgh Monarchs. Jack Young's transition to the top division was fluid, scoring 19 maximums in the 38-match league campaign and defended his world title at Wembley. The 1950s started well for the Hammers, but the Speedway on the whole began to decline. Despite being a sport, Speedway was classified as an entertainment for tax purposes and was subject to the higher entertainment tax, a plight shared with horse racing and greyhounds. In contrast, football and boxing had a far lower rate. The golden age of television had arrived. TV became accessible to the middle and working classes, firmly replacing radio as the go-to entertainment in the home. Suddenly, the need for speed wasn't as strong. Again, something that we can compare to today. Markets evolve and things change, and the sport has to adapt. In 1952, Custom House witnessed its first on-track death. American Ernie Rocchio was killed when he hit the fence at high speed, riding for the visiting Wimbledon Dons. The following year, a local novice named Harry Ayer lost his life. The 23-year-old was struck by a rider behind him when he fell during a junior race. By 1955, the National League had fallen back to 7 teams. The numbers on the terraces of Custom House were gradually dropping. The Hammers couldn't sustain the low attendances. Custom House closed its doors to Speedway at the end of the 1955 season. But the Hammers would be back.
Go on, answer. What a troublemaker. Brilliant Speedway rider.
You've thrown this at me, haven't you? Yeah, my goodness me. If I could have chosen something, I suppose, to be living at, I think on reflection, Speedway was the thing. I did a few things after Speedway, and nothing ever hooked me like Speedway did. And I know I'm bound to say this, for all the clubs I rode for, which was about 5, West Ham was the one. That was the one for me. Loved the track, brilliant people, and sorry to leave it when I did. And thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Golden Hunter. Gosh, what a man. But there we got a legend here, Spear Hardfelt, who I idolised and absolutely welcome here, Smith. They've come all the way from Norway, and I want a big round of applause, please, for Spear, and he's going to say a few words. Thank you, Spear.
You know what, I'm surprised getting invited here. It's very nice to see all the people. Yeah.
Short and sweet, but absolute legend. Absolute legend. And always went right round the outside. You've got to count on Spear to just take the lead in the last moment, didn't he? He was amazing. He really was, Spear. Big Andy.
But West Ham, the people here, they was absolutely brilliant. But it was hard for me at the time because I was already driving and I used to start out at 3 o'clock in the morning, 14 deliveries on, then get to West Ham on my own, and I used to block off the car park with the lorry. But that was brilliant days, and if it hadn't been for the unfortunate women working there, I could have rode for West Ham forever, like, you know, that was brilliant. And the guy, he just come up, so, you know, I felt he was my favourite rider. He was, and I've always wanted to meet him in person. He's absolutely brilliant. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you.
What I can say about West Ham is I really enjoyed it. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you.
Alan Sage, favourite of anybody else. Stan the Man, Stevens. Oh, what a legend. There you go. West Ham through and through.
Well, it's nice to see a lot of people here. This is something great. I've enjoyed this, meeting different people. Some of them I've recognised, but some I haven't. The rest of it is going to be short and sweet, it's quite fair, because I'm going to have to save a few words for when I go over there. So, as I said, nice to see you all again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
British champion, Alf Hagan. We all know Alf. West Ham legend, grass track legend, Speedway legend. Big round of applause for Alf. There you go. Have a few words, Alf, please. West Ham.
Yeah, well, good afternoon everybody. I hope you're enjoying it. You know, it's nice to meet everybody. And it's, you know, you find it difficult to meet everybody. Half of them you can't recognise and half of them don't recognise me, so that's how it goes. But hey, with the Speedway, you know, I really enjoyed the early days. Once you've been doing it for a few years, it gets a bit hard work, but you know, West Ham was at the end of my career, and I did enjoy that, but I enjoyed most of my Speedway, so I hope you all enjoy it today, so that's it. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Reg. I met Reg, sorry Reg, I'm thinking Reg Luckhurst coming. He's going to give us a song in a minute, I hope. I think we're going to introduce next Brian Leonard. Crikey. Star of West Ham. Well, I started there. Let's have a few words. There you go, Brian.
Well, I can say that West Ham was a terrific track to race on because it had so much room and it was very fast. And I had some really good meetings there, especially this fair. And all I can say is it's nice to see so many people turn out. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brian. It's pleasure to see you again. Really lovely. So Reg Spearman, I think I know this band. I think everyone does. Reg Spearman, West Ham legend, 1949, 1950. He told me that was the year I was born, 1949, so there you go.
Well, it's great to be here, seeing so many people. I'm sure you're all ex-West Ham fans. I was a boy fan, and then of course I was lucky enough to start racing Speedway and race for West Ham for a couple of years, and then got swept up into the army for a couple of years. By the time I came back, my place had gone in the team, so I had to move on to Stoke and then Leicester. But my heart's always been at West Ham, and I'm so pleased to be invited here today and to see so many here. And all I can say is have a good time, and hope to see you all in the future at another event. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
There you go, Reg. Optimistic until the last.
The Hammers returned to the top flight in 1964, replacing the recently closed Norwich, but finishing bottom of the 7-team National League once again under the guidance of ex-Wembley rider Tommy Price. Two more riders lost their lives at Custom House in the 60s. Poland's Teo Teodorowicz was killed riding for the Swindon Robins when he clipped to the fence, succumbing to his injuries nearly 5 months later. David John Wills also lost his life in the second half when a rider struck him from behind after he fell on the third bend. In 1965, everything changed. The British League was formed, the amalgamation of the National and the Provincial Leagues. Dave Lanning took over as the promoter of the Hammers, and West Ham would make history, topping their 17 competitors to win the first ever British League title. Their success didn't stop there. They beat Hackney and Wimbledon to win the London Cup and Knockout Cup final against Exeter to complete the treble. To cap it off, Sverre Hartfeldt won the London Riders' Championship. The Hammers were untouchable. They were the masters of their own destiny. They won all they could win. Success continued in 1966 when the Hammers retained the London Cup. It seemed all was well in East London, but a cloud had started to form. In 1967, 1/3 of the stadium was demolished, but the club continued to compete in the British League. In greyhound racing, the stadium began taking trainers and kennels from the recently closed Stamford Bridge, and concerns over Haringey and White City's future loomed. West Ham and Clapton's kennels were sold, bringing the estate under considerable pressure. In 1970 though, the cloud would descend. The West Ham team bus was on its way back from the match in Holland and was hit by a lorry in Lokren, Belgium. West Ham's manager and former rider Phil Bishop, along with riders Martin Piddock, Gary Everett, Peter Bradshaw and Malcolm Carmichael, were killed in the crash. The Speedway world was in shock and mourning. The WSRA unveiled a plaque in the Paradise Wildlife Park Speedway Memorial Garden honouring the memory of the 5 men who lost their lives representing the Hammers. Stan Stevens, who was one of the survivors of the crash, gave an emotional speech to the gathering in the Memorial Garden.
This gentleman here phoned me up and said, would you do me a favour? I said, well, it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to unveil the plaque in commemoration of Lokren. So, yes, I forgot there was something else I wanted to say. So, well, here we are. As you know, oh, that's right, this is what I wanted to say. He said, you're the ideal man. I said, yeah. I said, I'm the only one available, really, that was in there.
Yeah.
Because 2 of them are in Australia. And as you know, most of you know, all of you, we lost Colin a few months ago. So, as I say, I'm the only one alive that's over in this country to do this job. That's why you picked me up, wasn't it? Yeah. So, this is it.
Yeah. Thank you. Got photos there of all the people that perished on that sad night when they were coming back from Amsterdam after doing the meeting there.
That's right.
And you know, Mal Carmichael, Gary Everett, Martin Piddock, Peter Bradshaw and Phil Bishop, the manager. And the bench there is a memorial to it as well. Yeah.
In 1971, the problems at the stadium were becoming too great, the losses too high. West Ham Hammers finished bottom of the league. The Speedway Club would ride their last race. The West Ham Hammers were no more. In 1972, there was a glimmer of hope. Romford Bombers promotion moved to Custom House and competed as the West Ham Bombers, but it was to no avail. Before the Bombers even completed the season, the Greyhound Racing Association sold the stadium to make way for housing development. On the 23rd of May 1972, West Ham lost at home to Hull 38-40. Tony Childs crossed the line to win the last ever league race, and West Ham's Kevin Holden would win the last ever race in the second half. The stadium was demolished before the year even ended. Now, 50 years later, 200 houses sit on the site where Custom House once stood. The stadium might be gone, but not forgotten. So this is the site where West Ham Stadium used to be, otherwise known as Custom House. So this road here is where the home straight used to be, and this is Young Road, and just round this corner here is Wilkinson Road. So this is the north side of the stadium, Crooms Road now, and this is kind of where the fourth turn would have been. If you just look up there, you see over there, that bend in the road there, that's where turn 4 of the stadium used to be. So this is turns 3 and 4 right in the middle. So that there, that's where turn before was, and then sweeping past here. This is the middle of the turn. And if you look down this road just behind me here, that would have been straight down the middle of the centre green, pretty much. So this road here is sort of parallel with what would have been the back straight stand, or the back straight viewing area, and that over there is where the back straight itself, the track, would have passed through. So this is Nottingham Avenue, and this is the road that was actually here when the stadium was here. You can see just there, that's Young Road, which leads to where the main stand or home straight used to be for the stadium. As you can see it just behind me there's a little plaque. On this site stood West Ham Stadium, where 85,000 Speedway fans watched England beat Australia in 1933, and greyhound legend Mick the Miller set a world record in 1930. It's crazy to think, my dad's desire for Speedway, this is one of the places where it was really brought on here, Wimbledon and Wembley, along with Hackney, and to think that none of them are here anymore. That burning desire for Speedway was all built around those tracks, around these London circuits. Crazy. A piece of history here though, that's for sure. Speedway as a motorsport might be done in East London, but there is a little bit of Speedway left in the east of the capital. This is East London Cycle Speedway Club. It just so happens I bumped into Alan Busby, who's telling me all about Cycle Speedway and how it's enjoying a little bit of a resurgence after taking big hits after 2 years of COVID. Cycle Speedway is actually really interesting when you watch it up close. It's close together, it's quite rough, lots of elbows, much like the motorsport. If you have a track nearby, go check it out. It's definitely something different to the conventional motorsport. Monday 23rd of May 2022 was the 50th anniversary of West Ham's closure. It was only right the East End hear the roar of the Speedway bike once again, so Phil Ranson made the necessary arrangements. The neighbours certainly know what a Speedway bike sounds like now.
Yeah, there you go. Legend Dave Jessup. And I gave him a trophy when he was junior grass that rain. Now I tell people he's my father. So
thanks for that, Graham. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful to be here invited. Very nice indeed. Lovely to see everybody. I can only say that I started at West Ham when I was 14 doing demonstration races in the interval, and if it wasn't for the first year I had at West Ham, I may well not have been as good as I got, because I love the stadium, and the awe of the massive stadium as a 14-year-old was something special, without a doubt. I'd tell all the kids back at school it was wonderful. I've had a reasonable year, and I've enjoyed many seasons racing all over for many clubs. I can't honestly say that West Ham was my best because I was only 16 at that time. But no, I've had a great years. Can't say anything about it. Wonderful. I'm still in one piece, just about. A few grey hairs, what I've got left. And Graham I've known for, what's I say, 16, 17-year-old. Yeah. I used to travel down, not this either as Speedway, travel down to meet my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. And Graham used to fix the bike so I could drive back to Medway towns from Sycamore. So thanks, Graham, for that. Cheers.
thanks, David. And that would have been a world champion if he had a mechanical failure in the run-off for the world final. That is the truth. Teddy, now, I know this man really quite well. Good to see you, Ted. Yeah, West Ham legend again. There you go, Teddy.
I wouldn't say a legend, anyway. Short career, love the track, love the rides, you know, still friends with them. But the supporters, they were terrific. And during one close season, I think I even joined the Bowls Club. And used to go every week we were bowling. So there you are. But thanks a lot. Because it's all right to ride Speedway, but it's nothing unless you've got people supporting. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you too. And this is a great friend of mine I raced with at Hackney. Big round of applause for Ben Jansen.
Hello everyone, nice to be here to see some old West Ham supporters. I came over 64, first time in England, and in the middle of the season to go for West Ham. Hope to see you more here today.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I just got to say something here. 1964, Ben came over and broke for West Ham. And he never spoke any English at the time, as I recall. And I never spoke, no, Swedish. And whenever we went up to the gate, because we were riding together, it was a question of who got to the gate first, instead of each other to gate position. Well, Ben went back to Sweden for a period of time, and while he was away, I got a phrase book, a Swedish phrase book, and learned 1 to 10 in Swedish, and red, blue, white, yellow, etc., etc. So I thought, right, I'm on now, for when he comes back, I'm having whatever gate I want. When we got pushed off, I said, in Swedish, what gate I was going on, and he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had learned English, not learned Swedish. Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you very much, Barry Duke. Christ, that was in you for very many years for young England. Yeah, Barry. I'm loving to see you, Barry.
Well, what a great time to come here, eh? When everybody's here like this. This is brilliant. West Ham was only West Ham, as you know, as you people appreciate West Ham as it was. I can see some smiling faces there from 1968. Evening, Mick. You're right. Yeah, so an absolute pleasure to be invited here today. We've just come down from Swindon, 4 of us, and we brought actually a turnstile from Swindon Speedway, which they've ripped 16 of them out, and they were putting them in a skip. So we bought one of them, and we've done it all up, and we brought it down and donated it to the museum today as well. So, thank you. You'll all be able to see that on the back of the trailer at the moment. We're going to all get it off because we're causing an obstruction out there at the moment. So, we'll be here all afternoon. So, thank you very much, everybody. Cheers. Thank you.
Right, you're doing stunt coordination now, aren't you? Terry Stone is here somewhere. Legend that he is. He knocked me off once, you know. Dirty bastard he was. There you go.
Well, I was on there when I was needed. And if any of you know who put us up and rode for was Cynthia. Now, does anybody remember who Cynthia was? Come on. Who was Cynthia? Nobody knows who Cynthia was. Well, pardon? Thank you very much, Dave Lanning. It was down to Dave Lanning that all us young boys had to wear these visor jackets, didn't we? Where is he? Where's Ted? Ted, where are you? He's gone. So we had to wear these jackets.
with the levers on. But that was down to Cynthia. And Cynthia, his name was Dave Lanning, and he was called Cynthia because he was in a programme on the radio called Cynthia. Somebody over here knows about it. Anyway, I was only there when I was needed, and it was down to Dave for give us a ride. So thank you very much to Dave.
Thank you very much, Terry. Terry Stone.
Somebody knew Cynthia on.
Vic Cross, West Ham Bomber.
I feel very privileged to have been invited today, given that I only actually rode 6 matches for West Ham, so I think that I'm very, very lucky. From the turnout, I can't believe it's been so well supported, and it just shows the enthusiasm for Speedway in general. It's ironic that West Ham should now be in a housing estate, which is unfortunately happening across the country. So it's good to see a good gathering here with the support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've got another rider who's rode a little bit, but you might know.
Oh, sorry. I don't you recognise this band? He's a great friend of mine. I'm a friend of everyone in Speedway. He is Mr. Speedway. Barry Briggs. Big round of applause.
LD speaking to West Ham supporters. We used to come there and try to beat you all the time, but it didn't always work. But it's super to meet people again. You know, I'm a real what's over the next hill merchant. Past has been past and it's gone, but it's lovely today to come here and see faces that you've known for so many years. And Pete was my partner at Swindon for a year, so he probably hates me. He bought me a hamburger, and so I've been spoiled. But West Ham was special, probably one of the best racing tracks in England at the time. You could go there and have a good burn up, and I learnt my biggest lesson there. I'd been only in England for 2 months, and I didn't know where I was, and they pulled me out of a race and put Cyril Maitland in, and our partner Ernie Roadshow was in the race. And Ernie got killed on that time, and that's why I'm living in America now, because I helped to take Ernie back to America. And you know, you think you're bright enough to think, well, Speedway is dangerous, and I thought, bloody hell, you can die at this. And that was the biggest change in my life, was to come from West Ham from that. And then poor Tio also died there, so I've had sad memories of West Ham, but I've also had some really good memories, because I love Youngie. I shared a workshop with Youngie for a year. I rode terrible because he taught me to play snooker. It didn't work. And I had a match race at New Cross, and Youngie says, right, well, fix funding for this. So he goes up and tells Fundin, yeah, Briggo's going to run over you. And Fundin's purple. He's so nervous. He's doing this, kicking his shoe. And I run into him in the first corner. And he went next straight, put his boot on, and he beat me by about half a lap. And he broke the track record, and he did it twice. And I come back to Youngie, and I said, Youngie, that didn't work, did it? So we had a good laugh about that. So, you know, we've met some fantastic fellas, and I'm going to say Samo's done an unbelievable job over in the garden there, because I knew John the welder well. And I just went round there with Alfie Hagan, and we've seen all our mates that have perished, and we're all going there, you know that, but you know, they perished before their time. But Speedway, and it was a great time, and all the people here from the old days is unbelievable. Thank you very much, India. Right.
Thank you, very good.
You're cheating hard, well, I'll make you weep. You cry and cry and try to sleep, but sleep won't come all that whole night through. You're cheating hard, well, tell on you.
Sleep won't come. below. The way I feel, you're cheating her, we'll tell on you. You're cheating her, we'll tell on you.
I think they got around number 24, wasn't it, in the charts, and this day and age it'd be absolutely right at the top there.
When I first sang for Decca, they couldn't believe it because they'd never even heard of me. And when Mr. O'Meara was the promoter for doing all the stuff there, he said, well, why are you singing? I said, well, one of the supporters at New Cross heard me singing, and he said, wanted me to sing. He said, okay. So we made this record, and at that particular time it was 1969. And Tom Jones was #1 singer, Engelbert Humperdinck was #2, and I was #3 in the charts for Decca, and the Rolling Stones were #4. I couldn't believe it. We sold 11,000 records, being completely unknown.
Thank you, Reg. What a legend. What a man. And Gloria, his wife, was a fabulous, wonderful lady who made everyone welcome and knew everyone in Speedway. Just like Reg. He knows so many people here today and so many people know him. Thank you so much for coming today, Reg. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And there was only one man better than you, and it was Barry Briggs. Is that right? And he's got his hands round you now.
I was sitting there and I heard Cheatin.
I'm going to sign off now. I did ride at West Ham myself a couple of times. I went to watch it the first time, I think in 1965 or 66. Fred Wells got killed that day, so it is a dangerous sport. But I still went on to race there, and I enjoyed it, and it was a fantastic track. And thank you everyone for turning up today and supporting it, and West Ham. Thank you.
12 years after Custom House was demolished, the Hammer's name was resurrected. Down the road at Purfleet, a new stadium was built to hold banger racing in 1978 called the Arena Essex Raceway. The Arena Essex Hammers were touted as a reincarnation of West Ham. They adopted the Hammers' signature logo, colour scheme and their race night. The only thing they weren't doing was competing in the top division. The Arena Essex Hammers started their Speedway history finishing 14th, just 2 places above the bottom, but they got better. After a string of inconsequential league finishes, the Hammers won the British League Division 2 and they won it by some distance, 17 points above second place Glasgow Tigers. The Hammers were promoted to the top flight, but the promotion change meant they dropped to the Conference Division in 1996. The top division was split back into 2 leagues in 1997 and the Hammers joined the second tier, known then as the Premier League, where they remained until 2003. The Hammers moved up to the Elite League in 2004 and remained there for 16 years. Eventually, they changed their name to Lakeside and adopted the claret and blue colour scheme made famous by West Ham's football team. Lakeside won the Knockout Cup in 2009, defeating Coventry in the final. In 2017, the club competed in the 3rd division, known now as the National Development League, then moved back up to the 2nd division in 2018. The Hammers would lose their home in 2018 and the site was sold for, drumroll, you guessed it, housing development.
You're joking. Not another one?
The club wasn't even allowed to complete its fixtures, so they finished their league matches at Rye House in Hoddesdon, another track that is no longer here. The Hammers bid farewell to their home of 34 years. Richard Lawson won the last race staged at Purfleet, and the Hammers beat the Tigers 50 points to 40. The the Hammer's name would once again disappear into the shadows. Another site where Speedway's engines roared every Friday night sits there, silently. Dormant, derelict, deserted. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? The club couldn't even complete their fixtures, yet 4 years later, the track still lays there. What was the rush? This is a place where I share the West Ham fans' pain. I cried the night I said goodbye. A place where I would run up and down the banks with my brother as kids. We would run up to Dad and then watch the race when it started. Kelvin Tatum, Lee Adams, Mark Loram, so many legends. This was our local track, and it's where we would go to get the parts we needed from the spares van, become a member of the track staff, helping put the fence away every Friday night. We would be there as late as midnight and beyond, helping put the fence away, helping keep the club alive. A place where I would take advice from the world's best riders, where we would celebrate the life of one of British Speedway's most significant losses. You know, it actually hurts to see a track like fall into this state. And now I understand how you Coventry fans feel about seeing what's happening at Brandon. You know, all over money. It's just, you can't help but take it personally, you know? This is a brilliant facility. Is it the best speedway track in the world? No. This is what really grates on me when I hear people moaning and whinging about how Wolverhampton hasn't provided the best speedway they've ever seen. Well, it's producing better speedway than this place is now. We need every track we can get. We need every bit of help we can get. We need people to see sense. We need control over these facilities. This is driving me balmy. This sport drives me balmy. You never realise how much you'll miss it until it's gone. I implore you, turn off your TV, get in your car, catch a train, go to your local speedway track, take in the smell, listen to the roar, because you never know when the engines will go quiet. British Speedway is in a terrible state. You can spend 1 hour on Speedway social channels and feel all is lost. But TV and streaming will never be able to replace the raw experience. You can't feel the atmosphere through a screen. The Remembering West Ham Day wasn't just a day to remember the club. It's a love letter to all those who stood on the terraces, who got on the bike, promoted the club, raked in the dirt. To those who couldn't be with us today. For those who did what they loved on the track in the East End, and they paid the ultimate price. Custom House might be gone, but it will never be forgotten. The bikes still roar because we refuse to let them die. The Hammers, the Bees, the Robins, the Vikings, the Falcons, they live on in us. They live on in you. The memory will only fade when we allow it to. You only have to spend a minute around these people and then you get it. You understand. It's not a sport. It's not an entertainment. it's a way of life. It's a lifelong emotional connection that never leaves us. It doesn't matter how long you spend away from the sport, how many times you've said enough is enough, I can't take this anymore. Few things put a smile on your face more than the smell of the casserole, the sound of that unsilenced JAP. Knowing what you know now, if you had the chance to do it all again, but without Speedway, would you?